Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we are going to be talking about Bitcoin's fresh new all-time high, rallying all the way up to $100,000 and filling that primary target that I had. If you guys have been watching this channel, you'll know that I've been very bullish on Bitcoin reaching 100K, and from that 100K price point was where we would finally see our first true alt season of this cycle. Now that Bitcoin is sitting right at our main target, I wanted to go through and take a look at every prior cycle and help you guys visualize exactly what happens with those altcoins once Bitcoin enters price discovery for the first time in that bull run. This is always when the biggest gains are made, and I've got nothing but confidence anybody that's positioned inside of altcoins is about to make a financial fortune. So for today, I'm going to break down my favorite charts, explain exactly what to expect moving forward, and how we can be positioned to make the most profit possible over 2025. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Without further ado, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, coming over here and jumping into the Bitcoin chart, I wanted to go through some of our prior cycles. I wanted to take a look at Bitcoin dominance, and I wanted to give you guys some other fractals of some of our prior altcoins that have made some of the bigger gains of our bull runs and how it's applicable to what we're seeing today. Coming over here and looking at Bitcoin, we can see that Bitcoin is finally at a new all-time high. We've made that big breakout that I was anticipating, and we've came all the way up to that primary target I had at 100K. Now, I wanted to come over and look at all of our prior cycles and give you guys an idea of as far as what to expect. Are things different this cycle? Is there anything that we can look at and maybe get a little bit of a deeper understanding on moving forward to 2025? Because I've maintained 2025 was going to be the most bullish year for crypto. It was going to be the massive blow off top year where anybody that's positioned before that calendar year is going to make a financial fortune. I do firmly believe that what we're seeing in the charts today is more or less just perfectly following along with that same thesis. So we're going to be breaking it down, analyzing all of my favorite charts, because I want you guys to be aware and to be prepared for capitalizing on all of this life-changing wealth that's upon us. Coming over here and looking at Bitcoin, from our prior all-time high of our last cycle to the point of us making a new all-time high took 1,085 days. People have asked me, is this on par with the prior cycles? Is this much earlier? Is it a left translation, a right translation? What the heck is going on with the 4-year cycle? And to be completely honest, nothing that we're seeing is any different than those prior cycles. The last cycle for Bitcoin, the all-time high to the point of making a new one, took 1,099 days. This one was 1,085. So virtually the exact same time frames as our last cycle, which created your typical 4-year bull run. Now coming over here, the longest one we ever had was 2017. This one was about 1,240, 1,250 days in length. So we're a little bit shorter than that 2017 cycle, but the whole reason why this cycle took so much longer to accumulate was because we had just experienced the Mt. Gox hacks up here where 80% of the Bitcoins were being traded. So I do believe it took a little bit longer to just build a new foundation of support as we got new exchanges that came in here, Coinbases, Krakens, things like that. I do believe that that was why it took so much longer. But when we're looking at all of these, it's not that different. 1,100 days to 1,200 days. I don't think that that's anything to be too worried about. Realistically, the last 8 years of our Bitcoin cycles have been virtually identical. Now, the thing I want you guys to be aware of are what happens with the altcoins, because I've made it very clear that at 100K, I was anticipating that we would most likely be starting to see that rotation take place. And I do believe that we're starting to see the early signs of that. In our last cycle, the thing I want you guys to be aware of is altcoins really didn't do a heck of a lot once Bitcoin first went into a new all-time high. I know that everybody was anticipating that, well, once Bitcoin goes into price discovery, altcoins are just going to magically explode. And while it was a potential we were watching for, I made it clear that I didn't think it was the likely scenario. I figured the likely scenario would be Bitcoin would lead into new all-time highs, altcoins would lag and start to play catch up, and it would be around that 100K price point that the altcoin rotation would finally take place. Because in our last cycle, if you guys weren't around, I'll explain what took place. Bitcoin made its fresh all-time high above $20,000 here at the end of the year in December. And it went from $19,000 all the way up to $42,000 before we saw a pullback. Bitcoin doubled in price, going 100% into new all-time highs, and the altcoins really didn't do anything at all. And so I want you guys to be aware that in the last cycle, Bitcoin made a very big move into price discovery, and the altcoins barely moved at all. So in this cycle, seeing a lot of the same similarities, people have been a little bit discouraged, but I'm here to tell you guys that this is completely normal and is really just following along with that last cycle almost to the T. Not only are the time frames virtually identical, but the way that the market is accumulating is also very similar. Now, obviously, we're not looking at quite the same type of a move, but if you're measuring from the very bottom of our last correction to where we ran, it was perfectly 100% into new all-time highs. And if you're also looking at where we were at in the last cycle, it was pretty much the exact same type of a move before we saw that first pullback. So I'm looking at this and I'm anticipating that, it's relatively similar. I wouldn't be surprised if we went up here a little bit higher. Maybe we would hit 110, 115K before we see any sort of major pullback. But regardless, I do anticipate that once we get a true sell-off in here and we do get a local top, that's going to be the point where we're going to see those altcoin profits really rotate out of Bitcoin and go into the altcoins for the first time this cycle. So that's what I'm anticipating. If we're looking at what happened in 2017, we did something very similar where we went from 1,200 to 3,000, basically that same 100% type of move, and then we made that same type of a pullback in here. It's virtually identical to what we're seeing today. The only difference is we haven't quite got that pullback yet. We don't know if it's going to make one more high or whether it's just going to make that sell-off now. We're going to watch and see. But what we do know is in 2017, altcoins rallied with Bitcoin on that first breakout. In the last cycle, altcoins didn't really rally with Bitcoin, and in this cycle, altcoins really didn't rally with Bitcoin. So because of that, I'm anticipating we're going to be following a lot more closely with that last bull market. And one of the things I want you guys to be aware of is really how the altcoins develop, because we're going to come back and look at a picture of Solana, and we're going to go all the way back to its very beginning of its cycle, because this is going to give you guys an idea as far as what the altcoins were doing. If Solana did, like a 3 to a 10,000x in the last cycle, whatever it was, you're talking about that being the big outlier. It was the next Ethereum, so to speak. If this is the big leader, then most likely we should be looking at that and seeing how it behaved when Bitcoin made a new all-time high, because it will give us an idea as far as what to expect today with our current new set of cryptos that we have in this cycle. Looking over here at Bitcoin, we're going to draw a line at that all-time high, and we're going to draw a circle right where we made that new all-time high. So we would actually draw this circle about here. Bitcoin was making that new all-time high, and Solana was finishing the very ending of that correction. Now, it was once Bitcoin actually hit all the way up here at 42K that we started to see Solana break out. That was in this candle here, and then when Bitcoin pulled back right there, Solana was still kind of outperforming it, just consolidating, and it was shortly after Bitcoin had made that retest at 30K and started to go into another new all-time high that was finally where Solana started to pick up and outperform. So what we're looking at here, in my opinion, is a lot of those same similarities. Bitcoin's already made that big 100% type of a move into new all-time highs, and that's what we're seeing right over in here. We've already made that big liftoff, yet many of the altcoins that we're anticipating to break out have mainly just kind of lagged. We're looking at a lot of altcoins still way down here in the beginning stages. For example, if we come over and look at Injective Protocol, this is a newer crypto from just this cycle that, in my opinion, has a lot of those same similarities, right? If we're looking at Injective Protocol today, notice how we made this first little run up, made this big correction, and it's finally starting to bottom down in here. Starting to flip these resistance levels as new support, and it's finally starting to reverse. Yet when we're looking at the price action of Bitcoin today, it's kind of at that same point where it's already made that big move into price discovery, yet many of our top performing altcoins are just barely starting to leave the accumulation. In my opinion, what we're seeing today is virtually identical to the last cycle, and I do believe that whenever Bitcoin does end up topping, keep in mind it could go up here a little bit higher, we could still end up peaking at like 110, 115K before that big correction sets in, but whenever that rotation does finally set in, if we do see some type of a pullback for Bitcoin, maybe we come back down to like 80K or something, I'm not anticipating we're coming all the way back down to retest those highs. That's just too obvious. There's going to be a lot of people buying right now, specifically institutions. But when we do end up seeing that first rotation take place, I'm not going to be the least bit surprised to inevitably see Bitcoin make that pullback. And in the same ways that the altcoins started to really gain market share when Bitcoin pulled back in the last cycle, I'm anticipating that we could see something very similar once again, where this pullback will be the moment where a lot of these altcoins start to finally go into new all-time highs. Because really, when we're looking and comparing the last 3 bull runs, it's not really any different than the prior ones that we've been in up to this point. Specifically looking at the last cycle, we saw a big breakout. Bitcoin really stole the show. A lot of people were anticipating altcoins were just dead. And then that was right before that big rotation took place. So looking at these, SUI and Solana look identical in their first little cycles when they got added to exchanges, made their first little pump. Both of these look identical. Now, if we're coming over here and actually taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance, it's relatively similar here. Notice how this was the topping point in 2017, and this was the topping point in that last cycle. So if we're looking at where Bitcoin dominance topped, it was right here for Solana, the exact low before we ended up making that new all-time high. So when we're looking at Bitcoin dominance today, Bitcoin dominance has just been steadily uptrending throughout basically the last 2 years. We haven't seen any sort of significant breakdown from this bull trend. However, Bitcoin's currently sitting all the way back up here at resistance. We are at that point where we've seen certain altcoins already starting to break out. So in the last cycle, Solana was actually lagging more significantly than some of these other layer ones today. Sway is already sitting at a new all-time high, right? So we've already kind of front run what we've done in the last cycle, and that tells me that we're really not that far off from that rotation, because there is already certain altcoins that are getting that early rotation, even though Bitcoin dominance hasn't technically topped. If we're looking at this being the topping point for BTCD, we're looking at this finally breaking down from this level. Bitcoin dominance is going to have to come all the way back down to this 40% region. And just that move is already going to be pretty much the same size as our last cycle. This was all that the altcoins did in that last cycle. In 2017, this was the size that we got. It was basically 2 of these in one. So the question I've always had, is this going to be that first cycle where Bitcoin dominance goes to a new all-time low and makes back-to-back massive pullbacks in this in the same way that it did in 2017? I don't know for certain, but that's kind of the thesis that I've maintained. I do firmly believe that this will be our biggest altcoin cycle. We're seeing the meme coins. We're seeing the celebrities launching coins. I mean, as far as like a true market cycle top for Euphoria, we're pretty much in that cycle right now. The institutions are here. We're going to see them really start to shill it to retail so that they have the exit liquidity to take profits. In order to do that, I think it's apparent that we're going to have these 2 big cycles play out for the altcoins. We're going to have this first one where Bitcoin dominance comes back down to 40%. I think we'll see a bounce at that level. But then after that bounce, I do believe we're going to see a new all-time low for the first time since that 2017 cycle. And that's where many of these altcoins are going to do these type of rallies. Because this is what Solana did. And if we're zooming out here and looking at Sway, it's going to do the same type of stuff. We're just in this move right here. It's just a little bit premature. This thing's going to make an absolutely massive run in the same ways all of the top performing altcoins of the last cycle have. At this point, nothing is any different than those prior bull runs. I do believe that we are moments away from getting that rotation. And if the Bitcoin dominance is anything to be looking at currently, I do believe that we're moments away from that rotation. If this is the topping point, then we're going to start to see these big markups happen. The whole length of time is in the accumulation. It takes so long to get to the point of breaking out, but once the breakout happens, the markup happens in a very short period of time, and I am anticipating that that's what we're in store for right now. So guys, if you found value in this video, please do me a favor. Hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. If you want to see anything I'm buying, selling, trading over this bull run, I am running a Black Friday discount, so if you guys want to be able to get 25% off and get into my group long term for lifetime access into anything I'm buying, selling, trading over the cycle, make sure that you guys come and reach out. Links are in the description to go ahead and check out on my website. From there, if you guys do want to actually get that discount, just email me, reach out to me on Discord. You can reach out to me on Twitter. Everything's linked in the description. There's a number of ways that you guys can get a hold of me to actually get that discount. So if you do want to check that out, links are in the description. Reach out to me in my email or socials, and I will be there to help you guys get situated and taken care of over this cycle. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.